bilateral relations between both nations. Shetima spokesman Stanley Nkwocha, who revealed this in a statement this morning, said the vice president will meet with Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden and the Swedish Prime Minister before engaging in high-level talks with key government officials. According to Nkwocha, Shetima will target areas of strengthening collaboration between Nigeria and Sweden, including high city, digitalization, education, sustainable transport, agriculture, and mining. The vice president is accompanied by the Plateau State Governor Caleb Muftwang, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugur, and some heads of government agencies and parastatals. Still in Africa, the International Monetary Fund says a staff team had visited Senegal to start assessing the implications of data revisions resulting from a government audit of past and current IMF-supported programs. The fund, in a statement, explained that while the certification of the government's findings is pending, IMF staff will continue to work with the authorities to evaluate the macroeconomic impact and outline the next steps. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye had ordered an audit which showed that the deficit at the end of 2023 stood at over 10% of GDP, compared with around 5% the previous government had reported. As a result, the government said it had decided not to go ahead with Senegal's request for an IMF disbursement in July following the fund's review in June. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has named Major General Hassan Mahmoud Rashad as head of the powerful General Intelligence Agency, appointing the outgoing Chief Abbas Kamel as an advisor to the presidency. The agency has played a leading role under Sisi, handling foreign policy matters including conflicts in Gaza, Sudan, and Libya, as well as domestic security issues linked to a long-running crackdown on political dissent. Rashad previously served as a deputy to Kamel and, according to two security sources, had taken over management of important files, including warming relations between Egypt and Iran. It was not immediately clear what impact the change could have, but Sisi has depended heavily on Kamel, who was a fixture in meetings with senior foreign leaders and at summits. Outside Africa, Russia is seeking to convince BRICS countries to build an alternative platform for international payments that will be immune to Western sanctions at the summit next week. According to a document prepared by Russia's finance ministry and central bank, Kremlin wants other countries to work with it to overhaul the global financial system and end the dominance of the US dollar. The statement reveals the system will use blockchain technology to store and transfer digital tokens backed by national currencies. This, in turn, would then allow those currencies to be easily and securely exchanged, bypassing the need for dollar transactions. Global Box is reaching you live from Adamimogo 107.7 FM, Ido-Ekiti. Still to come. U.S. bombers target underground Houthi weapon sites in Yemen. Please stay with us.
Hello, good people of Ekiti State and its environment. For your private, political, family, or club meetings, and so on, of not more than 50 to 100 participants, we introduce to you Adamimogo Event Hall. Yes! Right at Olojudo's Palace, Adamimogo 107.7 FM's compound, Ido Ekiti. Ample parking space, good security, clean environment. You also have the opportunity to book for a media publicity of your events on our fast-growing social media platforms. All these for a talking. Simply visit us at Olojudo's Palace, Ido Ekiti, or call the following numbers for more inquiries: 0803-526-5812 or 0916-340-0878 or 0806-511-4430. You can also call 0806-380-8891 at Adamimogo Event Hall. We are waiting for your patronage.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us again. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook via Adamimogo 107.7 FM. For happenings around you or news inquiries, please contact our newsroom on this number 0811 801 8242. Now to the rest of the news. The Pentagon says the U.S. has carried out what it called precision strikes against 5 weapons storage locations in parts of Yemen controlled by the Houthi movement. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said U.S. forces, including long-range bombers, targeted underground facilities housing weapons components used to attack civilian and military shields in the region. Austin said the strikes against the Iran-backed Houthis demonstrated the ability of the U.S. to target facilities that its adversaries sought to keep out of reach. Since last November, the Houthis have launched attacks on around 100 ships in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden as retaliation for Israel's military campaign in Gaza. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has restated that her presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's tenure but a sustenance of Democratic gains. Harris, who is a Democratic presidential candidate, said this during a televised interview defending Biden's handling of illegal immigration while blaming Republicans for failing to pass the border security bill.
Follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
She also faulted claims that Biden was not mentally fit as president, claiming her time as vice president will be employed as a launching pad to set the country on the right path.
My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
Harris is also reportedly in negotiations to appear on Joe Rogan's podcast, the most popular podcast in the U.S., which has a large following among young men. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said the bloc could draw lessons from the contested Italian policy of processing migrants offshore in Albania ahead of an EU summit focusing on migration. She made the remarks in a letter to member states ahead of the meeting in Brussels on Thursday and Friday, where she said the European Commission will present a new proposal for legislation to increase deportations of migrants. Von der Leyen, who is just starting a second 5-year term as European Commission chief, appears to be responding to pressure on migration from across Europe. The European Commission spokesperson Eric Mama announced that the Commission will thoroughly review the letter to ensure that attention is directed towards the most critical priority areas.
Very clear on what are considered the priority areas for action, but now, of course, it is for the leaders to discuss the way forward based on the letter that the President has sent.
In a letter to member states, she said the return rate of irregular migrants from EU countries is currently only about 20%, meaning the vast majority of people who are ordered to leave an EU member state do not. Former One Direction singer Liam Payne was found dead after the 31-year-old fell from his third-floor room balcony at a hotel in Buenos Aires. Argentine police in a statement said that they were called to the Casal Hotel after being notified of an aggressive man who could be under the effects of drugs and alcohol. When they arrived, the hotel manager reported he had heard a loud noise from the inner courtyard, and the police found that a man had fallen from the balcony of his room. While many of the details surrounding the circumstances of his death remain unclear, Payne had spoken publicly about his struggles with mental health and using alcohol to cope with the pressures of fame. Sports. Serena Williams, a 23-time Grand Slam singles champion, has successfully removed a grapefruit-sized cyst from her neck and is doing well as she recovers. The 43-year-old former women's tennis world number one said in a TikTok video that she found a lump in May on the right side of her neck and An MRI showed she had a brachial cyst. Williams won her first Grand Slam title at the 1999 US Open and her last at the 2017 Australian Open. She captured 7 Australian Opens, 7 Wimbledon, 6 US Opens, and 3 French Open titles before retiring after the 2022 US Open. With that sports story, we end this edition of Global Box on Adamimogo 107.7 FM Ido-Ekiti. Before we go, the highlights again. We told you that in Nigeria, the federal government and organized labor have agreed on modalities to crash transport fares and prices of essential commodities, especially foodstuffs. We also told you that the International Monetary Fund says a staff team had visited Senegal to start assessing the implications of data revisions resulting from a government audit of past and current IMF-supported programs. Finally, we brought it to you that the Pentagon says the U.S. has carried out what it called a precision strikes against 5 weapons storage locations in parts of Yemen controlled by Houthi movement. That's Global Box on Adamimogo 107.7 FM Olujudo's Palace, Ido-Ekiti, on behalf of the production crew led by Oladoyin Ayegusi. My name is Layi Oyawa. Good afternoon.
Top stories, real voices.